Hello and welcome to 1 Minute Theatre Reviews. I'm Paul Seven Lewis, this is the National Theatre, and I'm here to review Jack Absolute Flies Again. I hope they've got some air conditioning in there. The spacious Olivier Auditorium wasn't hot, it was very pleasant. Rather like Jack Absolute Flies Again. Previously, Richard Bean and Oliver Chris took the characters and plot of Goldoni's The Servant of Two Masters and turned them into the modern classic Man Two Guv'nors. Now they've tried the same approach with another 18th century comedy, Richard Brinsley Sheridan's The Rivals. And there are a lot of laughs, thanks in no small part to Caroline Quentin's Mrs Malaprop. "I'm overcome with emulsion," she says, and flatulence will get you anywhere. There are also some well-executed elements of farce, but in the end, Jack Absolute Flies Again doesn't quite take off. Thank you very much. There's not the wow factor of Man Two Guv'nors, nor the play's sudden and hilarious lurches in unexpected directions. It's funny, certainly, but the action and some of the jokes are predictable in a way that Sheridan's sure-footed, razor-sharp original never is. Still, Emily Byrne's production offers a great deal of rollicking good fun. Actually, mostly rollicking, but there is an underlying serious point about young people going off to war. Well, that's the 1 Minute review. Keep watching for a lot more about Jack Absolute Flies Again, especially the show-stealing performance by Caroline Quentin. The Rivals was written at the time of the American War of Independence, and this version is also set during a war, World War II, and in particular the Battle of Britain, which celebrated its 80th anniversary in 2020, the year that this play was due to premiere, before COVID came along. Now, both were times when the country needed young men who were perceived by an older generation as silly and unfit to fight, to shape up. And so they do. Although in this play there's a great deal more silliness than shaping up. And they're aided to maturity by the women in the play. Ultimately, the play is a tribute to those few young Spitfire pilots who took on the might of German air power. The main plot, and plot may be too strong a word, concerns ace pilot Jack Absolute. He's infatuated by Lydia Languish, but upper-class Lydia has a romantic notion that her future lies with a member of the working-class poor. She fixates on an engineer from the north, Dudley Scunthorpe. Kelvin Fletcher of Emmerdale and Strictly fame is well cast as this man with big guns and few words. Jack decides to disguise himself as Dudley in order to seduce her, thus becoming his own rival. I mean, there are others who fancy Lydia, but they're never serious rivals. Jack is the flawed hero and played with the right blend of dash and deviousness by Laurie Davidson. His friend Roy is a classic silly ass, straight out of P.G. Wodehouse. He's in love, and Jordan Metcalfe imbues his character with a splendid mix of puppy love and jealousy. And to show the war effort was the work of more than upper-class English Brylcreem boys, the play brings in an Australian pilot, played by James Corrigan, a Sikh pilot, played by Akshay Sharan, and two women. Now, the presence of a Sikh pilot is historically incorrect, but it's just one of a number of modern touches that stop the play being offensive in ways that those characters undoubtedly would have been at the time. And it not only applies to race, but to the many sexual references. One sensitive man speaks of the importance of consent, and the women talk to each other frankly about sex, and affectionately about one of the men's willies. Let's look at those women. They're not only liberated by the war, but they are the most self-aware characters. Lydia, played by Natalie Simpson, is a transport pilot. Julia, played by Helena Wilson, is an army driver. The third is a maid, Lucy, who is, as she says to the audience, a dramatic device. She's the one who deliberately delivers love letters to the wrong people, just to cause mayhem. And she regularly breaks the fourth wall to bring our attention to various theatrical devices and the mechanics of farce. And Kerry Howard couldn't be better in that familiar role of the ironic, confident servant who is cleverer than her mistress and masters. And it's she that draws us into what might otherwise be seen as a ludicrous plot. But the glue that holds this otherwise flimsy kite together is Caroline Quentin's Mrs Malaprop. She's the first person we meet, when she also addresses the audience, and she's pretty much the last. Now, maybe the malapropisms are overdone and a little too crude, but, well, I enjoyed them. And they're clever because, like Sheridan's originals, the wrong word is often the right one. as when she talks of mutton dressed up as spam, spam being a cheap wartime tinned meat, or referring to her birthday, I passed a significant millstone. Or, I could go on for the whole review, when in a moment of sexual excitement she says she is filled to the quim. And Caroline Quentin delivers them with a delicious smile and perfect enunciation. There's also a moment when she does the splits, which is comedy gold. Lovers of Strictly will not be surprised at her elasticity, and how lovely to see two alumni of that show reunited in a group dance. And that dance is one of the highlights of the show, as all the cast join in on a Lindy Hop. In fact, it made me think that this could one day be a great musical. Thank you, choreographer Lizzi Gee, for that. Mrs Malaprop and Sir Anthony Absolute, Jack's father, represent the older generation, at first sceptical about these irresponsible young people, but slowly coming to see their qualities. Now, Sir Anthony's character may be overshadowed in this production by Mrs Malaprop, but Peter Forbes is outstanding as the reactionary, prejudiced, blustering army general. Be quiet when I'm shouting, he says, whose heart is gradually revealed. Overall, it's an excellent cast. But the young ones all seem nearer or over 30 than 20, which they should be, and they don't quite convey that gaucheness, that brash naivety of youth that Richard Bean and Oliver Twist put across so well in the script. The stage thrusts out into the audience, well, bulges slightly. The set by Mark Thompson is a delight. It says this is the romantic version of pre-war England. At the back is an English country house and countryside, complete with blue sky and fluffy clouds. But on the lawn in front of the house is a battered Nissan hut, the RAF headquarters, which contrasts starkly with the house and says there's a war going on to defend those English values. Interior sets roll on and off smoothly, and there's an effective use of projections designed by Jeff Sugg of airplanes in deadly dogfights in the sky, the reality of planes hitting and being hit. Jack Absolute Flies Again itself is not quite a hit, but far from a miss. I give it 3 stars. I hope you enjoyed this review or found it useful. If you did, please subscribe, and then you'll be the first to know about my future reviews. Oh, and please, if you want to, like and share. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and if you want to read my reviews, please go to theatre.reviews.co.uk. Thank you for watching.